Hi, welcome. I'm Christine Weber. This is my weekly live stream where I talk about yoga tips and the yoga world in general. I have a few things I want to talk about today. Actually, not today. I have a few things I want to talk about in the future live stream because I've been thinking and writing a lot about yoga teacher training, but I'll get to that. But today I thought I would do something really practical. I want to show you a way to work with triangle that works the side body. Um, so and why? So let me give you a little background before we jump into it. When I first learned triangle pose way back when in the 90s, I learned it as a lateral bend, lateral flexion, right? It's meant to mobilize the side body. Later, I started learning it like from Iyengar folks, and um, it was really popular. Anusara triangle was really popular for a while as more flexion with rotation. So I started to learn different, there were different approaches. People had different things to say about triangle pose. There were different ways of approaching it. And I'm good with any approach to any pose as long as you can give me a functional purpose, as long as there's a reason to do it. And movement is, movement in general, like more variety, the more beautiful it is, the more fun it is, the more functional it is. And the caveat would be that you're not aggravating some kind of an issue that you have. So the issue with triangle pose, I'll never forget one of my Ashtanga Iyengar Anusara teachers saying this, is the shear strain on the sacrum. And the reason I won't forget that is because it was hypermobile, like so many yoga teachers. And she created like a lot of laxity from overdoing, specifically triangle pose. And then she was in, I think she was in Kurmasana, like the tortoise with your feet behind your head. And she heard in her head her teacher, who was Rodney Yee at the time. I don't know if he still teaches like this, but she heard him say, "Tuck your tailbone," and she tucked her tailbone, and she heard pop, 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 and had significant low back and sacroiliac joint issues since that time. It was very no, it was very back then. It was very much like, well, that's just sort of what happens in yoga, and there was much less awareness about biomechanics and stuff. This must have been 25 years ago at least. Anyway, so that is one of the risks for some people, is that there can be a little, laxity that's just inherent. A lot of times mobility is actually genetic, much and use dependent, but very much genetic too. So for some people that can create an issue. So if you know that triangle pose is, or that you have SI joint problems, keep your practice symmetrical for a while and build a lot of strength in your glutes and your hamstrings, and especially those fibers of your glutes. I mean, just like strong working out, walking sort of stuff for a lot of people is a good solution to some of that, and weightlifting rather than just trying to fix it by doing your triangle pose better. Kind of just leave it aside. I certainly have left poses aside for months and years, and some poses I just don't do anymore because I don't want to. And my body's different. I'm postmenopausal. My body's different. Okay, so let me talk about this platter a little bit and why I think it's interesting. So I like the lateral flexion part of the way that I typically teach triangle. But the other thing is that the side body often gets kind of neglected, ignored, and working with work, of course, intercostals, but working down into obliques, TA a little bit, even though it's postural, but you get a little bit, and then erectors and rhomboids, and so like all that side body stuff is, I think, really, really powerful. And sometimes we kind of ignore it, at least interoceptively. We don't spend as much time thinking about the side body. So that's one reason I like the platter. So for this pose, you separate your feet and you turn your right foot towards the right a bit and left toes turn in. And then I like the telling the muscle spindle fibers telling the Golgi tendon organ um, to let go of it through the repetition. I really love the exhale down and inhale up. It feels very preparatory for me. And I also love sliding my hands. Exhale down, engage the belly a bit, inhale up. The sliding the hands thing increases proprioception and interoception, so there's a lot of value in that. So 3 or 4 often is a good number to get you ready to go into the pose. Soften the knee. I never lock it out. It's just nicer because bending the knee gives me more agency with the hamstrings. And then when you stay in the pose, and you could stay lower or higher, I'm gonna stay around my knee height right now. You could do an inhale and sweep the left arm up and over. And then when you exhale, you hold a platter and you can look at it. And the platter kind of comes behind you and you start to feel all those back body muscles and side body muscles just like, yeah. So they're having a party, rocking out, inhaling up and then exhale and engage, especially left side of the abdomen. And this is like holding a heavy platter here. Do one more. And I'm looking at the platter, working some neck muscles too, scalenes and stuff on the side. So it's like everything on the left side is just like, whoa, we're fired up. And then you can do a little bit if you want to just inhale, release, and exhale, engage. Inhale, release, and exhale, engage a bit. That's another way to work it. You could also work the neck by looking down. So it's not working it as much as sort of releasing some of the tension, even though I keep my shoulder girdle forward. My head looks kind of back. Inhale, exhale, engage. Okay, so inhale up and exhale down. So just take a moment and feel, if you did that with me, feel all those muscles on the left side, just like, woohoo, that was interesting. And hopefully the SI is feeling stable. And that's one way you support that is not going too deep, right? Okay. And then turn the left toes out and right toes turn in a bit. And we'll work on this side. So it's an exhale as you go into it and an inhale as you float up. And we're just giving the messages, neuromuscular messages of like, ooh, easeful movement. You don't know what's coming next, side body. but the easeful movement part is just like, yeah, I could do this all day. It feels simple. And then, so 3 or 4 times is usually sufficient to get those messages like, oh, I could stay there. And then I'm going to hold my platter to kind of imagine that it's getting heavier, loaded up with little tiny hors d'oeuvres or maybe glasses of kombucha or something. Okay, so on the inhale, it's going to come up and over, look up at it. And on the exhale, Ayurvedic electors, that's the word. And the exhale, oh yeah, we're looking back at that platter, getting everything from my neck all the way down to my low back and my belly. Everything's working. Inhaling up and over, and exhaling to work it. Using that ujjayi on the exhale is super helpful. Inhale up and over, and exhale and work it. Okay, so let's play with maybe just inhaling, lifting, exhaling, lowering. It's getting heavier. The belly draws in. That's another version. You can also play with looking down. And that might feel better on your neck. For some people that feels a little better, but it can still work the belly and work work the back muscles here. Okay, when you're ready, inhale up. Exhale, release your hands. It's really nice for the nervous system to integrate. So we did something on the right side, we did something on the left side. You can pause and notice that's a great integration. And another way to integrate is to do a forward bend afterwards. So you can float the arms up on your inhale. Maybe cross your wrists. You get a little bit of that cross lateral stuff. Exhaling down, soften your knees a little. Let go of your head, cross the wrists again. And we could do that one more time. Okay. Some people like to stay in that forward bend. That's always fine too. Walk your feet back together. Oh, there's some people, their practice is like a little bit overly focused on forward bend. So I think it's good to be mindful of it, that it doesn't have to, you don't have to overdo it. But notice how your side bodies are feeling right now after that. If you practiced it with me, please let me know, leave a comment, and let me know other things you would like to work on in my live stream. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you next week.